and this just shows how misaligned healthcare really is. They're in Texas, and they're with one of the big carriers, and they received a 30% renewal. They hired us right before this renewal was received. We were looking at the little claims information we could get from this carrier, and we projected that likely you're going to get a significant increase because of these claims. We found out that there was an individual on their plan that was actually no longer active at the company, and it was one of the high-cost claims. All we needed to do was let this big carrier know this, and they reduced their 30% increase down to a flat. The carrier had this data. They knew this individual was no longer active. They just didn't think us or the client knew. Once we figured it out, they reduced the renewal by 30%. They still moved to an unbundled, transparent program, regardless of getting a flat or not. But it just shows how misaligned the system is, and it shows how much you need an advocate working for you, looking at your claims to help fight for you. If you don't have someone fighting for you in your corner, it's very, very hard to win.
Yeah, and that takes my mind, to another group we've worked with. They're in a state that, the state is ran by this program, is really what it comes down to. They've got 90+% of the market share. And anytime you look at, making changes there, it is met with a ton of hesitation. And, we really saw that firsthand. And it's because, again, misaligned incentives at the actual carrier level. And we saw it through the conversations. We saw it through really the want to share data that was the clients. We saw it through the want to be flexible and help the client, put the client first and put their employees first. There was none of that. And things that we've worked on with groups all across the country, this carrier just dug their heels in. They said, hey, we just don't do that. That's not something we do. There are things that they could have done with a push of a button that would take 5 minutes of effort, and they just chose not to. This client, though, was committed. They're committed to moving forward. They're committed to having more transparency. They're committed to understanding where their dollars are going. And because of that, they stuck with it. We stuck with it. Even through some hard discussions and some timelines that weren't met, we were able to move forward, get buy-in from the entire ecosystem on where we were going, how we're going to do it. Now we have a plan. We're set. We're moving forward, and we're going to have success with it. But it didn't come without really seeing just how broken the system is in some places. And wherever you feel like the system is broken, wherever you're struggling to get data, wherever you're struggling to understand why something's happening the way it is, wherever you're struggling to understand what's the cost of something, what do we pay for that, that's the areas you need to focus on. Those are the areas you need to ask the question of what's going on here, what's driving the cost, why are they treating this like this? And I think
the skepticism that employers need to have with their healthcare program, you need to be asking questions of why am I spending this money? Where are all my dollars going? Why am I getting the increase I'm getting? Who's managing my ecosystem? How are the people who's managing the ecosystem? How are they getting paid? You need to ask questions, and then I would encourage you to be skeptical. And I would almost take an approach of, okay, why is my program running so poorly? Who's getting paid that I don't know about? Because I guarantee there's people in your program getting paid that you have no visibility to, and they're making money off your program running poorly. We see that time and time again, and it's frustrating for us. I hate seeing it because businesses, you're trying to grow, and a business is trying to make an impact doing it whatever they do best. They're employing hundreds of people, families, and then you have someone who's making a ton of money off a top line item at a company. For me, that doesn't sit right. It makes me so frustrating. It keeps me up at night. And we want to make this impact for employers across the country to create that transparency so they have the confidence and they know we have the best program possible for our company and our employees, and we know exactly what's happening within the program.
Yeah. No, it's been something I'd say over the last 3 to 5 years. We've spent a lot of time focused on this process, owning it, really knowing where we're going, redefining it, adjusting it, and it's something that's in continual improvement. And we always find something new. The thing about healthcare and benefits is it's ever changing. And not just is there not a one size fits all, but even something that works today, it might not work in 6 months. And that can be really frustrating. When you have a partner, you have a vendor in place, you have an advisor in place, and something changes. Maybe it's the ownership structure. Maybe it's changes in their business that have, decided, hey, we're going to change this type of approach to the business. We see that often. And at the end of the day, that falls on us to continue to keep a pulse on those things, to understand what the market's doing, to understand, where narrow networks are popping up, new PBMs, new advances in healthcare that allow for access. There's hundreds of options when it comes to managing a healthcare program. Employers have to be nimble. You have to be flexible when it comes to this. Thinking that anything out there is a set it and forget it and it'll work doesn't work. And what I would say, if you're managing a healthcare program for any type of employer companies, be curious, be willing to listen to something new, be willing to uncover something new. Just thinking that, what you're doing today is going to be the solution for the next 2 years. It may be, but it's likely it won't be, because claims change. There's new prescriptions, new medical treatments coming. There's new vendors coming daily. So to think that anything in this space is a set it and forget it is just not realistic. And I think that's the thing that we often see where there's a ton of pushback, is someone that's bought into the fact that they're in a set it and forget it, or it is what it is and there's nothing we can do, or they have bought into the spreadsheet approach that here's our renewal, here's the other costs. If it makes sense, let's do it. If it doesn't make sense, don't. And they've lost the curiosity because of 10 years of costs going through the roof. And I think now more than ever, there's opportunity when it comes to healthcare and benefits to have an impact on it. And while it's an uphill battle, every time you turn on the news, every time you turn on, an app, anything, you're seeing the bad actors in the space. And it's so frustrating. You're seeing some of the biggest names in the country, have their stock price go up and to the right. And it's really, they're benefiting off of this. So I'd say ask yourself is, how's that happening? What can we do? How can we have an impact on it? And you can. That's the thing we keep seeing from groups that are bought into this. There is a way to have an impact on it. And if you treat it like a top 3 line item on your P&L, you'll have success.